Hi everyone, it's Shannon and welcome to today's video. So today's video, very excited because I finally got my hands on the new Natasha Denona Golden Palette. Now this was like leaked, I guess about a month ago. It was actually accidentally leaked by the brand, but I did know about this and I had seen it and I was personally very excited because I personally never owned the gold palette. I do have the Alter Ego dupe for the gold palette, which I'll be comparing to in a second, but I never had the gold palette. So I was very excited to see the golden palette and I knew I was going to purchase it. I did purchase it with the pre-order on the app on Sephora. However, and I got it on Wednesday, June 5th, but I took my son to Disney World for his end of the school, kind of a quick one night, 2-day trip, and got back and then just, you know, life. So I decided to kind of take a little bit of time, do some comparisons, and do a little bit more research, kind of less of a first impressions videos to kind of give some more information. But anyway, here is the box. Now you've probably seen this already. Here is the actual palette and it's very luxurious. I love it. And the only thing is it does show fingerprints, so you can kind of already see my fingerprints on here. And then here is the palette. I have already done swatches, and but I wanted to do swatches because I've heard a lot of people kind of complaining that it is very monochromatic and there's a lot of shades that are very similar. So what I did is when I did my swatches, I sorted them out by formula and then also kind of by lightest to darkest, to kind of give a comparison. And I do have some thoughts on it, but let's go ahead and get into this. Okay, so first up, I just want to do a quick side-by-side comparison of the Alter Ego dupe for gold, which is Goddess. So it's the Goddess, and I love this palette, and because especially since I never had the gold palette. So here is a quick side-by-side. Now this palette, I believe, runs $22 and it is available. So you can kind of see, now there are 9 shades in the gold palette that are in this palette. The ones that are missing are the 2 teals. So you have the 2 teals here, which this one I really don't use. I think it's called Python in the original gold. This one I absolutely love, but I don't usually use it that often. And then I think it's like Lime Crime. I do really like that shade. So there's some, and then like the Dijon Mustard I think is the one that's missing, and that's a shade, again, I think it's Athena in here. I don't think I've ever even used that one. I think I've just swatched it. So for the shades that they picked for this palette are the ones that I will use. I like that one shimmery teal shade, but I also don't use it that often. So here are the swatches that I did in natural sunlight, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down and you'll see. So the first 2 are the cream powders, and it's Maliko, which is a cream powder off-white, and then Panna, which is a matte cream powder beige. These are both new shades. Then the next 5 are the matte shades. Then we have Flesh, which is a matte light warm nude. This one is in the mini bronze. Aria, which is a matte medium light dusty sand. This is in gold. Sandstone, a matte medium ochre, which is in gold. Teak, which is a matte medium dusty caramel, which is in gold. Log, which is a matte dark brown, also in gold. Then we have the metallic shades. There's 5 of them. You have Aura, which is a metallic golden ivory. This one is in the palette 04, which is a 5-pan, and then the original 10-pan palette. Aurum, which is a metallic muted gold. This is in gold. Oro, which is a metallic warm gold, in gold. Alchemist, which is a metallic brass, also in gold. And then Varus, which is a metallic medium antique brass, which is also in gold. And then the last 3 are the sparkling shades. You have Nubia, a sparkling foiled gold nude champagne. This is new. Fizzy, a sparkling wet effect golden nude. This is also new. And then Cava, which is a sparkling champagne gold, and this one is in gold. So there are 9 shades. So here are the 9 shades circled. These are the ones that are in the original gold palette. And then here is the one with the 2 shades that are in other palettes. One is in mini bronze, which is Flesh, and then Aura, which is in the palette 04, and then the original 10 pan. So only 4 shades are new. So it's basically the top row minus Aria. So it's these 3 here and this one here. Those are the only 4 shades. Now again, I don't have the gold palette, and I don't, I used to have the number 4 5 pan, I don't anymore, and I never had the 10 pan. So these are for the most part, and I also never had mini bronze. So I never got the mini bronze, so I don't have flesh. So again, those are all new shades. Now, if you have the baby gold palette, also note that it is all 3 shades are in here. You have sandstone, oro, and log. So if you have the baby gold, it's a little 3 pan, you have 3 shades. So I don't have that either. So this is basically a brand new palette for me, except for the fact that I own the dupe. But you know, keep that in mind. So if you have the original gold, or if you have the mini bronze, or you have all of those, then you probably don't need this. So looking at my swatches, where I do see the repeat kind of overlapping shades are these kind of, you know, mattes. In the foils and the metallics, I don't see a lot of overlap, but in the mattes, yes. It's really, there's a difference in undertone, but it's very minimal, and will you be able to see it on the eye? Maybe, maybe not. And then there's really only one depth, you know, depth shade. So this one's kind of a middle shade, but it's really, that's kind of it. And I think this is kind of, it's definitely more neutral than I expected. I kind of think it's the, like the warmer version of the I Need a Nude. It's just, to me, it's very, very similar. I love I Need a Nude. It's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite. And this is kind of, I think, a sister palette to it. It's very, very similar, probably just, you know, just kind of a different undertone, but the same kind of color story. The other one I wanted to kind of do a side-by-side with is the Sigma Ambiance. So here's the Sigma Ambiance, and you can kind of see here, very, very similar in tone. This one has, whoops, this one has a little bit more depth to it. Also has a couple orangey shades, so you're going to get a little bit more variety in it. Obviously it's a different formula. I love the Sigma formula, but you kind of have similar vibe to it. But in looking in my collection, this was probably the closest, besides the Goddess, which is obviously different, but that's probably the closest one to it. So again, if you have the Sigma Ambiance and you're trying to think of a reason not to get this one, then you probably don't need it. Now, before I go ahead and get started, I did want to say that Angela Bright has a great video where she swatches the palette, but she also does some swatch comparisons. So she has the gold, she has Ambiance, she also has Naked Honey, which she does a lot of comparisons, and she does the whole swatching. So if you want to see those swatches, it's a really great, and the one with Ambiance is actually very, very telling. So you can, if you're looking for a reason not to purchase this one, definitely watch that video if you have Sigma Ambiance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do pretty much the same transition shade on each eye and kind of go in with some depth, but then I'm going to go in with different metallics just to kind of see how that changes the look, because there are some different shades in here. So what I'm going to do is kind of do pretty much the same look on each side, but with just the different metallics or the different shimmers on the shades, so you can kind of see how that's going to change. What I'm going to do for the first is I'm going to go in with Flesh. I'm going to try and use some of the newer shades or shades that aren't in the original gold. So I'm going to go in with Flesh. Now, Flesh isn't a new shade, it's in the mini bronze, but it is not in the gold. So I'm going to use that one as the transition shade on both of my eyes. And you can see here, it's just a really pretty kind of peachy flesh. And I guess it's described as a matte, light, warm nude. And that's definitely what it is. Okay, so there you have Flesh on both eyes. And next I'm going to go in with Log. So there's none of the new shades are really a depth shade. So I'm going to go in and actually I'm going to mix kind of Teak and Log to kind of give a little bit of kind of a mixture. So I don't want too much. I want to kind of go light on it. And I'm just gonna do what I normally do, and I just kind of deepen the outside corners on both of the eyes. Okay, so I did the outside. Again, these are gonna be exactly the same. What I'm gonna do now is put on different metallics. So the first one I'm gonna go in on with is Aurum. So Aurum is described as a metallic muted gold And then the other eye, I'm going to go in with Oro, which is a metallic warm gold. So I swatched these side by side. They're pretty different. One's more of an antique brass, one's kind of more of a true gold. So they're very different types of gold. So I'm going to go in with the finger, and I'm just going to pat the eye and put it on the eyelid on this eye, and then I'm going to do the same with the other eye. Okay, so this one has Aurum. Now I'm going to go in with Oro on the other eyelid, and again, just so that you can see how just changing the one metallic shade can give a different, subtle look, different look, but a different look. Okay, so you can see the difference here. This one is Aurum, this one is Oro, and you can see that this one is muted and this one is more of a true gold. So it's subtle, but I can definitely see the difference. This one has definitely kind of a brighter look, and again, that's just changing the metallic, nothing else. And so I think you can get definitely a different look, obviously, and there's a couple different types of metallics. I went with two that I thought were pretty different. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and go in with Fizzy. Fizzy is one of the new shades. It is the Sparkling Wet Effect Golden Nude. So I'm going to take Fizzy and I am going to put that over the lid as well. I'm going to take it and put it over to kind of give it a different look as well. And you can see here, it's just gonna give it just a little bit more of a wet effect, and I put it in the center of the eyelid. Now in this eye, I'm gonna go in with Aura, and Aura looks white, but when you swatch it, you can see that it does have a champagne tint to it. So it's not like white. It definitely, I think it's a good brow bone highlight, also an inner corner highlight, but it's not as white as it looks in the pan. So I'm going to put that on the inner corner, and you can see there. Now I'm going to take Maliko, which is that first shade. It's a new shade, and I'm going to use that one as the brow bone highlight for both. It is a matte shade, but it is a very, pale matte shade, so I'm going to do that. You could also use that as the inner corner, but it's a pretty highlight if you wanted to use that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of wrap this up, put some mascara on, and then come back and give you my final thoughts. Okay, so I'm back. So as far as this palette is concerned, I absolutely love it. I knew I would love it. As soon as I saw it, I knew I wanted it, and I'm so glad that she came out with this. I do wish that that Lime Crime shade was still in here. I do wish some of the mattes, especially like the mid-tone mattes, weren't so close. There are undertones that are different, so I can see that there are some differences, but on the eye, you may or may not. And I think it's just gonna be a matter of me playing with it. I'm not gonna miss the teal shades personally. I know that kind of made the gold palette aesthetically appealing, but when I use the Goddess palette, I've only used that one shimmery teal shade, I think once, and usually I kind of go for the gold shade. So I think it made it prettier like to look at, but as far as using, I think I would use this one more. So I think it's absolutely stunning. However, with that said, if you have the gold palette, you don't need this. If you have the Sigma Ambiance, you don't need this. If you are looking for a cheaper alternative, go for the Alter Ego Goddess. You don't need this. So it's just a matter of you don't need it. This is $69. Now I do have a promo code with Natasha Denona. It's Shannon. It'll save you 15% off. And then even right now, you can get like 15% off at Ulta right now if you use the app. So there's always a code. I used the $10. I got $10 off at Sephora using my 500 points. So you can definitely get it to under $60 easily, but still, you don't need it. So I think it's great. I will definitely use it. This will probably be one of my most used palettes. I think wait for a sale. If you don't need it right now and you want it, but you don't need it right now, but otherwise you can save 15% off and you can get it under $60. So with that, if you like this video, click like, click and subscribe. That way you get a notification every time I post a new video. Bye everyone.